There is a silence that clings to certain places on Earth. It's a silence found scattered across deserts, breathing beneath humid jungle canopies, and resting on lonely, windswept plains. It is the silence of profound age, the quiet legacy of extraordinary ancient achievements. Here lie the remains of towering megaliths, vast cyclopean walls, and tombs built for kings by hands we can no longer name. Their colossal blocks, weighing hundreds, sometimes thousands of tons, were shaped and assembled with a geometric precision that commands a deep, almost unsettling respect, thousands of years after their creators turned to dust. In the face of these monuments, a disquieting sense of amnesia settles in. For in so many cases, we simply do not know. We don't know who precisely built them. We don't know why they poured such immense effort into their creation. And most perplexing of all, we have lost the knowledge of the ancient techniques they used to bring them into being. Some of these structures appear in the archaeological records so abruptly, so fully formed, that they seem to predate the very cultures we credit with great engineering, raising uncomfortable questions for our conventional timeline of history. These sites are more than just relics. They are puzzles carved in granite and limestone, riddles left behind by civilizations whose capabilities seem to lie far beyond what we expect from their eras. But there's another layer to this mystery, a phantom narrative that whispers from the background of human history. It is an echo, one found in the oldest stories of nearly every culture on Earth. It is the memory of a great flood. From the sun-baked plains of Mesopotamia, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, we hear of God sending a deluge to cleanse a noisy and corrupt humanity. In the high deserts of North America, the Hopi tell of waters that swept away the Third World, sparing only the righteous. Ancient Chinese legends, the foundational myths of their civilization, speak of devastating inundations that reshaped the entire landscape. And on the other side of the world, Aboriginal Australians pass down vivid, haunting accounts of the sea rising to swallow the coastline, turning what was once a single landmass into the continent and islands we know today. These are not loose similarities, vague tales of big storms. They are strikingly consistent accounts, a shared trauma from cultures separated by impassable oceans, insurmountable mountains, and unbridgeable millennia. Some researchers, looking at the geological record, see these stories as fossilized memories of real events, the catastrophic sea level rise and violent geological upheavals that marked the end of the last ice age between 12,000 and 8,000 years ago. Yet others point out that many traditions, including the biblical and Mesopotamian accounts, place their great flood far more recently, perhaps around 4,500 years ago. If that later date holds any truth, it hints at something truly apocalyptic, a cataclysm powerful enough not just to reshape coastlines but to erase entire civilizations from the record. And what if those civilizations were more connected than we have ever dared to imagine? What if around the world, the megaliths that share such uncanny similarities in scale, style, and construction were not built in isolation? Could they point to a once prominent, perhaps even global megalith-building culture? One that possessed a sophisticated understanding of engineering, logistics, and astronomy, only to be wiped almost entirely from history by a single world-altering catastrophe? Join us as we delve into these fascinating pre-flood megaliths to search for the knowledge and the intent their builders left encoded in stone. Together, we will explore the staggering possibility that the massive walls, monuments, and carvings we find today may be more than ruins. They may be the last surviving messages from advanced societies swept away in a great flood. Remembering. A story of a world that was lost beneath the waves. Our journey begins in a place you might not expect, far from the usual epicenters of ancient mystery. We travel to the quiet, wooded hillsides of Japan, where two ancient monuments lie, their origins as veiled in mist as the landscape that surrounds them. These enigmatic structures, the Ishi no Hoden and the Masuda no Iwafune, represent some of Japan's most profound megalithic puzzles. Unlike Stonehenge or the Pyramids of Giza, these remarkable stones rarely appear in documentaries or history books. Yet their silent, imposing existence challenges our conventional wisdom about the capabilities of the ancient world. First, let us explore the mesmerizing Ishi-no-Hoden, often called the floating stone in Hyogo Prefecture. To see it for the first time is to witness an illusion. It is an enormous granite monolith that seems to defy gravity itself. Suspended above a small placid pool of water that has collected around its base, the stone gives the distinct impression of floating, as if tethered to the earth by only a thread. The monolith is a monster of shaped stone, measuring approximately 6.4 meters in length, 5.7 meters wide, and 5.45 meters tall. Its weight is estimated at a staggering 500 tons. To truly grasp that scale, imagine 3 Boeing 747 jumbo jets, emptied of fuel and passengers, compressed into a single block of granite. Yet this immense mass appears delicately balanced, supported only by a small central pillar, an uncut portion of the bedrock, skillfully concealed by the reflective surface of the surrounding water. It is a masterpiece of both brute force and subtle stagecraft. Upon closer inspection, the precision and craftsmanship involved become even more baffling. The surfaces of the Ishi-no-Hoden are astonishingly smooth, featuring crisp, clean-cut angles. Modern stonemasons acknowledge that to achieve such finishes on a block of this size, even with contemporary diamond wire saws and laser guides, would require immense skill and careful planning. How then did ancient people, supposedly with nothing more than primitive hand tools, manage to carve, shape, and balance such a massive object? The official historical record is silent. No documents, no scrolls. Not even a single archaeological artifact has been found to conclusively indicate the monument's purpose or the identity of its builders. Local legends, however, are far from silent. They fill the void with stories that only deepen the mystery. According to folklore passed down for generations, the stone was not crafted by ordinary humans. Instead, the stories speak of the gods Okunanushi and Sukunabikona, powerful beings who descended from the heavens. They attempted to build intriguing questions. Are they merely fanciful myths, or could they be the distorted memory of something real? A cultural echo of contact with a civilization so advanced their technology was indistinguishable from the divine, an existence that has since faded entirely from the pages of history. Not far away, in Asukwa, Nara Prefecture, a region steeped in the very origins of Japanese imperial history, another ancient megalith known as the Masuda no Iwafune, or the rock ship of Masuda, is equally compelling. This massive granite boulder, carved into a peculiar and distinctive shape, defies any easy categorization. It measures approximately 11 meters long, 8 meters wide, and nearly 5 meters tall, presenting an imposing, almost alien sight in the serene Japanese countryside. Its purpose remains an enduring enigma. Unlike so many other ancient monuments around the world, it cannot be easily identified as a tomb, a temple, or an astronomical observatory. It is simply itself. Carved intricately into its upper surface are 2 square holes and a series of precise, symmetrical grooves and rectangular indentations. Some researchers speculate these carvings might have served a practical function, perhaps as anchor points for a wooden superstructure now long lost to time. Others propose they were part of a ceremonial ritual or perhaps even a star map. Yet none of these theories has any definitive archaeological backing, leaving the true purpose of the rock ship obscured by the mists of antiquity. Even more baffling is the complete absence of stone chips tool fragments, or any carving debris in the surrounding area, the kind of industrial detritus that always accompanies large-scale stonework. This pristine condition has led some to suggest that the colossal stone was carved elsewhere and then transported to this spot, an idea that presents its own cascade of impossible questions given its colossal weight and the technology supposedly available at the time. The folklore of this region, like that surrounding the Ishi-no-Hoden, is filled with references to powerful civilizations and advanced beings from a distant past. Ancient Japanese chronicles, like the Kojiki and the Nihon Shoki, compiled around the 8th century AD, describe periods of chaos when the gods sent powerful floods and storms to cleanse and reshape the land, bearing a striking parallel to the flood myths found across the globe. These stories speak of great teachers who arrived from across the sea or descended from the sky, imparting wisdom in architecture, astronomy, and agriculture, only to vanish in a catastrophic event. If we consider these Japanese megaliths within the context of such stories, an intriguing possibility emerges. Could the advanced construction techniques evident in these stones be the hallmark of a sophisticated prehistoric Japanese culture, a civilization that was shattered and ultimately erased by a great flood or tsunami? If so, their story would align perfectly with the global narrative, suggesting that ancient Japan once hosted a culture whose incredible knowledge was abruptly and tragically lost to the waters. This mystery is compounded by what seems to be a global library of forgotten technology, evidenced by similar stone structures worldwide. Both Ishi-no-Hoden and Masuda no Iwafune bear a family resemblance to other inexplicable ancient monuments scattered across the planet. Structures that defy easy explanation, demonstrating similar patterns of precise stone cutting and meticulous placement. From the massive polygonal walls of South America to the mysterious split stones of the Arabian desert, we see common techniques and styles that suggest a widespread ancient understanding of megalithic architecture, a forgotten chapter of human history waiting to be read.
When most people imagine the great ruins of antiquity, their minds naturally drift to the sun-scorched sands of Egypt or the classical marble of Greece. But to truly stand humbled before an architectural enigma, you must travel higher, into the thin, crisp air of the Andes Mountains. Here, just outside the bustling modern city of Cusco, Peru, the former heart of the Inca Empire, sits an ancient fortress that seems to defy the very laws of physics and time. It is called Sacsayhuaman, and upon first glance, it is easy to underestimate just how extraordinary this place really is. But as you walk a little closer, leaving the sounds of the city behind, the true marvel and the profound mystery quickly comes into focus. The fortress is defined by its 3 massive tiered walls, which zigzag across the landscape for hundreds of meters. They are crafted from gigantic limestone and andesite boulders, some weighing well over 200 tons, the equivalent of 120 family cars stacked into a single monolithic block. Yet what is truly remarkable isn't just their colossal size, but the impossible precision with which they are joined. Each stone is fitted against its neighbors without a single drop of mortar or cement. They are placed together so perfectly, so intimately that even today, after centuries of seismic tremors that have leveled colonial churches in the valley below, you cannot slide a single piece of paper, let alone a knife blade, into the cracks between them. This is not the simple, stacked brick construction of the Romans or the Greeks. This is something else entirely. The stones are not uniform blocks, they are complex polygonal shapes. Some have as many as 12 distinct angles cut into their surface, each one a perfect, bespoke match for the unique shapes of its neighbors. The joints are not straight lines, but often follow gentle, elegant curves, winding gracefully along the hillside. It is a style of masonry that feels more organic than constructed, as if the stones were once soft, like clay, and gently pressed together before hardening into their current, immutable form. Standing in front of these enormous, silent stones, a single overwhelming question echoes in the mind. How? How did ancient builders, using supposedly simple tools of bronze and stone, create something that our most advanced modern machinery would find daunting, if not impossible, to replicate? Archaeologists and engineers agree that quarrying, transporting, and placing these huge stones would have required an immense, almost fanatical effort. But when pressed on the specifics, how exactly the joints were made so perfect, how the multi-ton blocks were lifted and maneuvered with millimeter accuracy, even seasoned researchers often shrug and admit it's something of a mystery. The logistics are simply beyond the scope of the accepted technological toolkit of the Inca, who are officially credited with the final stages of its construction. The Inca however, claimed that they did not build the foundational megalithic portions of the walls, but rather that they were the work of an earlier, godlike people. Local folklore, passed down through generations of Quechua-speaking people, offers its own fascinating explanations. Some stories speak of giants who moved and shaped these stones, possessing a strength that was not of this world. Other tales, perhaps the most intriguing, describe an ancient civilization with abilities that seem almost mythical today. They speak of a lost art, a technology that allowed the builders to make the stones lighter or even to soften their surfaces like wax, temporarily easing their manipulation into a perfect, seamless alignment. A few hundred kilometers northwest of Sacsayhuaman, nestled deep in the Sacred Valley, another astonishing Peruvian site known as Ollantaytambo offers yet another chapter in this enigma. Here, high on a terraced mountainside, stands the magnificent and incomplete Temple of the Sun, famed for its Wall of the Six Monoliths. These 6 massive granite stones, standing tall and proud, are aligned side by side with the same baffling precision. Each monolith is enormous, carved from solid pink granite, weighing up to 50 tons apiece. But here, at Ollantaytambo, the mystery deepens even further. These colossal granite blocks did not originate from the immediate vicinity. Geologists have traced their source to a quarry on a distant mountain, located approximately 7 kilometers away, across a rugged, intervening plain and a deep, rushing river in the valley below. To bring them to their current location, the builders would have had to move each 50-ton block down a steep mountainside, navigate it across the powerful Urubamba River, and then haul it up another steep incline to its final resting place. Even today, with our most powerful cranes, heavy-lift helicopters, and advanced logistics, such a task would be considered exceptionally difficult and dangerous. The question, therefore, becomes almost maddening. How did an ancient culture achieve this monumental effort? Once again, the local Quechua people preserve rich legends that offer an alternative to our modern mechanical explanations. They speak of a time when their ancestors received assistance from a mysterious people known as the Viracocha, a legendary civilization of pale-skinned, bearded wise men who were said to have arrived after a great flood. These teachers, the stories say, brought with them advanced skills in agriculture, astronomy, and construction. And then, their work done, they abruptly disappeared, sailing west across the Pacific, promising to one day return. According to these traditions, the great stones of Ollantaytambo were moved through unknown, possibly supernatural means, commanded into place by the power of the Viracocha's voice, or lifted by sound. While modern science may resist such fantastical explanations, these local stories reflect a genuine and profound awe toward their ancestors' remarkable, seemingly impossible abilities. South America, however, is not alone in hosting ancient megalithic walls that challenge our understanding.
The similarities in technique at Sacsayhuaman, these mortarless, polygonal, seismically proof walls, are not unique. They can be found in distant corners of the world, on islands in the Mediterranean, in ancient Japan, and even in the foundations of sacred sites in Egypt. This shared architectural signature invites a tantalizing and disruptive question. Could these walls, separated by thousands of miles of ocean, be the remnants of a single global architectural tradition? Could the legends of the Viracocha in Peru and the stories of the godlike builders in Japan be different regional memories of the same lost, seafaring civilization? While the evidence remains circumstantial, the stones themselves stand as silent, unmoving witnesses to a past far more complex and capable than we have been taught to believe. What other monuments of this forgotten age might exist, not just hidden in plain sight on mountaintops, but perhaps lost to a more final fate, buried beneath the waves of a world-altering flood? To find the next piece of our puzzle, we must leave the thin air of the Andes and journey across the globe to the warm, azure waters of the Mediterranean Sea. For millennia, this sea has been the cradle of Western civilization, its shores graced by the empires of Egypt, Greece, and Rome. But beneath its shimmering surface, in the silent, blue-tinted depths, lies a liquid museum holding the ghost of drowned coastlines and the ruins of a world that existed long before them. It is here, off the coast of Syria, that the ancient island city of Arwad conceals a structure that speaks not of myth, but of a tangible, physical catastrophe. Arwad, known historically as one of the earliest continuously inhabited settlements on Earth, has roots that stretch back to the Phoenician era, nearly 4,000 years ago, and likely even further. The Phoenicians were the great mariners of the ancient world, masters of the sea who built a trading empire that spanned the Mediterranean. Yet in the shallow waters surrounding their ancient island stronghold lies something truly curious, something they themselves never explained. A partially submerged megalithic wall, constructed from massive blocks of limestone. Diving explorations reveal a sight that is both astonishing and deeply unsettling. Large Cyclopean stones, similar in style and precision to those found thousands of miles away in Peru, are fitted tightly together without any binding mortar. Covered in centuries of marine life, their perfect seams are still visible, a testament to an ancient and expert craftsmanship. But what is particularly intriguing, what makes this more than just another ruin, is its location. The wall currently rests underwater, submerged beneath several meters of the Mediterranean Sea. Its presence here, in what is now the domain of fish and coral, is undeniable proof of one simple, dramatic fact. When this wall was built, the sea level was significantly lower. It was built on dry land. This single observation connects the physical mystery of the megaliths directly to the global memory of a great flood. It strongly hints at a dramatic rise in sea level since its construction, a geological event that would have been experienced by coastal peoples as a devastating, world-ending deluge. The Phoenicians, for all their seafaring prowess and detailed records of trade, left surprisingly little direct explanation for this submerged structure. Did they build it themselves during a period of lower sea levels? Or, like the Inca at Sacsayhuaman, did they build their city atop the foundations of an even older, more mysterious civilization that had long since vanished? Local stories surviving on Arwad speak vaguely of ancient, prosperous cities along the coast that suddenly disappeared after catastrophic floods, a recurring theme that now finds physical evidence just offshore. Setting them into place on a sun-drenched coast, completely unaware of the dramatic changes awaiting their world. And Arwad is not an isolated case. This phenomenon of finding sophisticated man-made structures beneath the waves is a global one. Far off the coast of Japan, near the island of Yonaguni, divers have found a massive, terraced, pyramidal structure some 25 meters below the ocean's surface. Geologists debate whether it is a natural formation or a man-made monument, but its sharp angles and seemingly deliberate design continue to fuel speculation that it is a city lost to the sea. Even more astounding are the discoveries made in the Gulf of Khambhat, off the coast of India. In 2002, sonar scans revealed the submerged remains of a vast city, stretching for miles, resting in more than 120 feet of water. Dredged artifacts, including pottery, beads, and pieces of fossilized human bone, have been dated to as far back as 9,500 years ago. This discovery, if verified, would push back the timeline of urban civilization in India by more than 5,000 years, placing a massive, organized city in a period that was, until recently, considered primitive. A city that now lies drowned, a victim of the very same sea level rise that submerged the wall at Arwood. While each of these sites, Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, and Arwood, is impressive on its own, the similarities between them are too powerful to ignore. They all employ massive stones, cut with inexplicable precision, and placed together without mortar. It is the same architectural DNA, the same technological fingerprint, found high in the mountains and deep beneath the salt water. And just as compelling are the stories shared by the cultures that live near these walls, speaking consistently of civilizations whose skills and knowledge far surpassed their own, and who disappeared mysteriously in events explicitly linked to flood-like catastrophes. The evidence on the seafloor suggests these are not just myths, they are history. A history that has been almost entirely washed away, leaving us to piece together the fragments from the tops of mountains and the bottom of the ocean. Our journey now takes us from the depths of the sea to the sun-baked, arid landscapes of the Middle East, a region whose deserts hold secrets as old as time itself. Here, in the quiet and windswept expanse of the Golan Heights, lies a mysterious sight few have heard of, yet those who encounter it find it undeniably captivating. It is known as Rujim El Hiri, an Arabic name meaning the stone heap of the wildcat. For thousands of years, this intriguing ancient structure, a series of massive concentric stone circles, has quietly dominated the barren terrain. Built around 5,000 years ago, roughly during the early Bronze Age, Rujim El Hiri predates many of the world's more famous ancient monuments, including Stonehenge. From ground level, its true complexity is surprisingly difficult to grasp. It appears as little more than chaotic piles of dark basalt stones scattered across an open field. But view it from above, and the picture changes dramatically. From the sky, it reveals a remarkably precise layout. 4 vast circular stone walls, arranged neatly within each other like ripples radiating outward from a central cairn or burial mound. The largest circle spans an impressive 160 meters in diameter, and the entire complex consists of over 42,000 tons of carefully placed volcanic rock. Archaeologists agree the site likely held significant importance for its builders, but exactly why it was constructed remains uncertain. What is particularly intriguing about Rujim El Hiri is its clear and deliberate alignment with astronomical events. On the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the very first rays of the rising sun shine directly through an opening in the outer wall, perfectly illuminating the central mound. This precise solar alignment strongly suggests its builders possessed considerable astronomical knowledge and intentionally designed the structure to track the cycles of the seasons. Adding to the fascination, excavations within the central mound revealed a burial chamber, though it dates to a later era than the circles themselves. This suggests the site served various ceremonial functions over many centuries, perhaps associated with honoring ancestors or celebrating celestial events.
Local folklore, as always, enriches the mystery. Among nearby communities, especially the Druze people who have inhabited this region for centuries, legends speak vividly of giants, a race known as the Rephaim, who once roamed this landscape. According to these traditions, these enormous beings effortlessly built monumental structures overnight, carrying massive stones in their bare hands. Such tales might sound exaggerated today, yet intriguingly, they echo the same mythic DNA we found in Peru and Japan. Stories of giants who supposedly built Stonehenge in England and erected megaliths in ancient Armenia. These stories offer tantalizing glimpses into how people in antiquity made sense of the mysterious, cyclopean structures left behind by earlier, forgotten societies. From these enigmatic stone circles, our journey now takes us further south, into the sun-drenched deserts of Saudi Arabia, a landscape of stark beauty and ancient secrets. Here, standing amid drifting sands and relentless sunlight, is one of the world's most peculiar and debated geological formations, Al-Nasla. At first glance, the Al-Nasla rock appears almost surreal, as if conjured by a sculptor's imagination rather than shaped by natural forces. Two enormous sandstone boulders sit side by side, perfectly balanced on small, naturally formed pedestals. But what separates them, what immediately arrests the attention of all who see it, is a remarkably precise, perfectly vertical split. It is so clean, so exact, that it looks more like the work of a modern laser or a water jet than anything nature might create. The fracture line dividing the two stones is perfectly straight, running from top to bottom with an unwavering accuracy. Geologists, familiar with countless examples of natural weathering and erosion, marvel at its striking perfection. While scientific explanations have been proposed, seismic activity creating a fault line, wind and sand erosion exploiting a mineral weakness, or even freeze-thaw cycles, none of these theories fully satisfies every expert. The smoothness, symmetry, and sheer precision of the division are simply too perfect to comfortably attribute entirely to nature, leaving the door wide open for more intriguing possibilities. Adding another layer of mystery are the remarkable petroglyphs etched into Al-Nasla's sandstone surface. Believed to be thousands of years old, these ancient carvings depict animals, human figures, and abstract shapes. But what connection, if any, do these carvings have to the enigmatic split? Did the people who created these petroglyphs simply choose a remarkable natural canvas? Or could they have been responsible for, or at least witnesses to, the creation of the split itself? Given the extraordinary precision, some researchers have dared to speculate that an ancient people, equipped with an advanced or unknown technology, deliberately created it. Such a theory naturally raises the question, what kind of technology could that have been? Traditional history suggests the societies of this region possessed only basic tools of stone and bronze. Yet even today, cutting a stone of this size with such a flawless line would be a challenging and labor-intensive task. Could an ancient civilization have had access to methods, perhaps sonic or thermal, far beyond what conventional history acknowledges? Arabian folklore, once again, offers tantalizing clues. Legends from the region speak of ancient tribes who had mastery over stone, capable of shaping rock effortlessly with strange and unknown tools. These stories often describe beings with unusual powers who could alter stone's consistency, making it soft and easily moldable. Technology. Al-Nasla stands silently in the desert sun, a stone riddle inviting us to ponder its origins and imagine the untold stories etched deep within its perfectly split face. We now journey to Egypt, a land synonymous with ancient wonders. Yet for all the fame of the pyramids and the Sphinx, it is home to lesser-known sites that are, in some ways,
even more captivating. We travel to the sacred city of Abydos, one of the oldest cities of ancient Egypt. Here, nestled quietly behind the magnificent temple of Seti I, lies a subterranean structure known as the Osirian, an enigmatic complex that many believe predates even the oldest Egyptian dynasties and hints at a far more ancient and mysterious origin for this civilization. At first glance, the Osirian doesn't look like typical Egyptian architecture at all. Hidden partially underground, this ancient complex feels more like something you might discover in the lost ruins of Atlantis rather than behind a well-documented pharaonic temple. Descending the modern staircase into its shadowy depths feels like stepping back into a different era, one even older and more elemental than that of the pyramid builders. The Osirian consists of a series of massive granite pillars, arranged with geometric precision around a central island, forming a symmetrical chamber that is now permanently submerged in several feet of groundwater. Each of these colossal pillars weighs approximately 100 tons. They are shaped and placed with an astonishing precision that is immediately familiar. Unlike the intricate hieroglyphics and detailed carvings that adorn most Egyptian temples, the surfaces here are smooth, simple, and remarkably austere. The stonework displays incredible craftsmanship, showcasing precise, straight edges, sharp angles, and perfect joints, all achieved without mortar, a style that is uncannily similar to the megalithic walls found in distant Peru or the submerged wall off Syria. This architectural style stands in stark, jarring contrast to the nearby temple of Seti I, with its ornate inscriptions and colorful murals. The Osirian has none of this decorative grandeur. Instead, it exudes a minimalist, almost brutalist sophistication. This stark difference in style has led many researchers to wonder if the Osirian is truly Egyptian at all, or if it was inherited from an even older, unknown civilization. Official Egyptology attributes the structure to Pharaoh Seti I around 1280 BC because his cartouche was found painted on some of the stonework. However, many researchers argue this is merely evidence that Seti discovered and incorporated the much older structure into his temple complex, adding his name to it like a stamp of ownership. The evidence for a much greater age lies in the stones themselves. Extensive water erosion patterns are visible on the massive granite blocks, patterns that suggest prolonged exposure to significant flooding or rainfall, conditions that far predate the arid climate of Seti I's reign and point to a wetter period in Egypt's distant, prehistoric past. This erosion is notably similar to that found on the body of the Great Sphinx at Giza. Monument many now believe is thousands of years older than the pharaohs it is associated with. Egyptian mythology itself adds a fascinating layer to this mystery. According to legend, the site is the symbolic tomb of the god Osiris, lord of the afterlife, who was believed to have brought civilization, wisdom, and culture to humanity in a remote golden age. And here is the crucial point. The ancient Egyptians themselves consistently maintained that many of their most sacred places were not their own original constructions. Their texts describe inheriting temples and sacred structures from a much older culture, a civilization they referred to as the Shemsu-Hor, or followers of Horus. These were described as semi-divine rulers, wise and powerful beings who governed Egypt long before the first recorded pharaoh. Could the Osirian be one of these legendary inherited structures? Its architecture certainly aligns with the descriptions of these earlier divine buildings. Massive scale, precision craftsmanship, and a construction method unlike anything from the recognized dynastic era. This raises profound questions about Egypt's historical timeline and the true origins of its earliest and most impressive monuments. Further deepening the intrigue, researchers note that the Osirion shares its architectural DNA. The use of colossal, precisely fitted megalithic blocks with other enigmatic sites worldwide, such as Peru's Sacsayhuaman or Turkey's Göbekli Tepe. Such similarities hint at a shared global library of advanced engineering knowledge that existed in the remote past. Despite intense archaeological interest, the Osirion remains an unsolved puzzle. Water from the rising water table continually fills its chambers, limiting excavation and detailed study, preserving its secrets beneath a shallow, silent pool. It challenges our understanding of ancient Egypt, suggesting that what we know of the pharaohs may only be the final chapter in a much longer and far more mysterious story.
Leaving the sun-drenched landscapes of Egypt, we now travel northwest across the Mediterranean to a continent where ancient stones sleep beneath green hills and misty skies. In Western Europe, from the Iberian Peninsula to the Emerald Isle of Ireland, another piece of the global puzzle awaits. A network of megalithic structures that reveals a profound and sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, encoded in stone for millennia. Our first stop is in a quiet corner of southern Spain, nestled among peaceful fields near the town of Trigueros. Here lies a remarkable ancient structure known as the Dolmen de Soto. Constructed around 5,000 years ago, it is one of the largest and most significant megalithic tombs in Spain. From the outside, it appears deceptively simple, a large grassy mound of earth covering a stone-lined passage. But to step inside is to enter a world of wonder and ancient intention. A corridor stretching almost 21 meters in length leads deep into a mysterious circular chamber formed by massive upright stones, some weighing several tons. But the true marvel of the Dolmen de Soto reveals itself in the intricate carvings that decorate its stone walls. Walking slowly through the dim, cool interior, one can trace the faint outlines of spirals, concentric circles, abstract geometric designs, and stylized human figures etched directly into the stone. Their precise meaning remains elusive, but their careful placement and consistent style suggest a complex symbolic language. And it is a language that seems to speak directly to the heavens. Archaeologists studying the tomb noted that its entrance faces precisely east. This is no accident. Each year during the equinoxes, the 2 days when day and night are of equal length, the rising sun's first rays penetrate deep into the dolmen's passage, flooding the inner chamber and its ancient carvings with light. This phenomenon strongly suggests the site's builders possessed significant astronomical knowledge, carefully aligning their sacred space to a specific, powerful moment in the solar calendar. The sophistication required to create such precise alignments 5,000 years ago cannot be overstated. It implies generations of careful observation, complex planning, and a deep cultural reverence for the sun's journey. Leaving the warmth of southern Spain, we now travel northward, over lush green landscapes and across the sea to the emerald fields of Ireland. Here, nestled in the serene Boyne Valley, sits another ancient marvel, one even more famous for its celestial poetry, the Newgrange Passage Tomb. Constructed around 3200 BC, Newgrange is a triumph of Neolithic engineering, making it older than Stonehenge and even the Great Pyramid of Giza. At first glance, it appears as a large circular mound of grass-covered earth, its entrance marked by a massive, intricately carved stone. But as with the Dolmen de Soto, its true magic lies within and in its relationship with the sky. Visitors enter through a narrow stone-lined passageway, making their way nearly 19 meters into the heart of the tomb. At the passage's end sits a cruciform-shaped chamber with 3 alcoves. The interior stones are covered in the same symbolic art found in Spain: spirals, circles, zigzags, and other abstract geometric patterns,
carved deeply into the massive stone slabs. These motifs share such a remarkable similarity to those found at distant sites like the Dolmen de Soto. They hint at a shared cultural and spiritual vocabulary that span thousands of kilometers and hundreds of years. But Newgrange's most astonishing feature is its precise astronomical alignment, an event of breathtaking beauty. Every year, during the winter solstice, the shortest day and longest night of the year, something truly magical occurs. At sunrise, a narrow beam of sunlight enters through a special opening above the main entrance, known as the roof box, which was carefully positioned by the ancient builders. This single beam slowly creeps along the dark passageway, penetrating deep into the inner chamber, and for a brief, spectacular 17 minutes, it illuminates the tomb's interior brightly. For the rest of the year, the chamber remains in near total darkness. This precise alignment is an engineering miracle. It required sophisticated observational skills, mathematical calculations, and an advanced understanding of the sun's path to position the roof box and chambers so perfectly. The solstice alignment likely held profound importance for Newgrange's builders, perhaps symbolizing rebirth, renewal, or the promise of the sun's return after winter's long darkness. Irish folklore adds another layer of intrigue, telling that Newgrange was built by an ancient race known as the Tuatha De Danann, a mystical tribe said to possess extraordinary powers in magic, craftsmanship, and astronomy. While mythical, such legends reflect a genuine and enduring awe for the site's sophistication. Both the Dolmen de Soto in Spain and Newgrange in Ireland highlight an incredible level of careful planning by these ancient societies. Separated by geography and time, their builders nonetheless shared common practices: monumental stone construction, intricate abstract carvings, and, most importantly, a deep, consuming fascination with the cosmos, leading them to build precise astronomical observatories disguised as tombs. These remarkable sites, standing proudly in their landscapes, remind us that our ancestors were not primitive. They were astronomers, engineers, and artists, driven by a universal human desire to find their place among the stars. From the softly rolling green hills of Ireland, our journey now takes us southeast, back across Europe and into the rugged, historic landscapes of Lebanon. Here, nestled in the fertile Bekaa Valley, lies a site that has fascinated and frankly baffled visitors for thousands of years. It is Baalbek, and it is home to some of the most astonishing, impossibly large megalithic stones ever carved and placed by human hands. Despite centuries of study, the central question of Baalbek remains stubbornly, titanically unanswered. How? When approaching the Baalbek complex, one immediately feels dwarfed by its colossal scale. The site consists primarily of Roman temples built roughly 2,000 years ago. The Temple of Jupiter, the Temple of Bacchus, each an impressive feat of classical architecture, but it is what lies beneath these Roman structures that truly defies comprehension. The entire Roman temple complex was built upon a much older, pre-existing foundation, a platform made of massive stone blocks so enormous they overshadow even the grandest of Roman engineering. This foundation is famed for a section known as the Trilithon, 3 incredibly large limestone blocks laid side by side in the western retaining wall. Each of these 3 stones weighs an estimated 800 tons. To visualize that kind of weight, consider this. Each stone is roughly equivalent to 2 fully loaded Boeing 747s, and even more astonishingly, these stones weren't just roughly moved into position. They were quarried, cut with precision, transported over a kilometer, and then lifted some 20 feet into the air to be placed in the wall. The edges between these colossal stones fit snugly together with such exactness that no mortar was required. Thousands of years later, you still cannot insert a knife blade into the cracks. While the Trilithon stones alone are enough to break the historical paradigm, Baalbek holds another, even bigger secret. In a nearby quarry, less than a kilometer away, lies a stone known as the Hajar al-Hibla, or the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. This single monolithic block, fully quarried but never moved, weighs an incredible, mind-shattering 1,000 tons. A second, even larger block discovered nearby in recent years is estimated to weigh over 1,650 tons. Just imagining how these massive blocks were intended to be moved, let alone positioned with precision into a structure, leaves modern engineers in a state of disbelief. Even today, using our most powerful mobile cranes and transportation equipment, maneuvering and placing stones of this magnitude would be an immensely challenging, if not impossible, logistical nightmare. This raises the ultimate puzzle. How exactly did an ancient people, equipped only with what we assume were basic tools and simple machinery, accomplish this monumental task? The quarry supplying these colossal stones lies nearly a kilometer away, meaning the builders needed not only to lift them, but to transport them across uneven, uphill terrain. Historians and archaeologists have proposed various theories: complex systems of rollers, ropes, ramps, and thousands of laborers. But these explanations begin to feel woefully inadequate in the face of the stone's sheer size and weight. Modern experiments attempting to replicate even a fraction of the required movement have struggled, encountering insurmountable problems with friction, terrain, and manpower. Local Lebanese folklore, however, offers a rather different and admittedly more colorful explanation. Stories passed down through generations tell vividly of a time when giants roamed this valley, possessing immense strength and special powers. According to legend, these giants easily lifted the enormous stones, placing them into the foundations effortlessly, as a child might stack building blocks. They say the fortress was built for the biblical king Nimrod by these giants. While legends of giants might sound fantastical today, we must remember that ancient people genuinely believed these stories to be historical truths. And as we've seen, this is a recurring global motif. In Lebanon specifically, local stories describe these enormous beings as semi-divine ancestors who shaped the landscape with ease, leaving behind traces of their impossible strength in monumental structures like Baalbek. It is worth noting that while Roman architects were masters of engineering, their structures typically featured smaller, manageable stones and bricks bound together with mortar and concrete. The massive megaliths of Baalbek clearly predate the Romans. When the Romans arrived, they found this ancient cyclopean platform already standing, and they built their own temples on top of it, apparently recognizing its superior durability and stability. Yet, the Romans themselves left no clear record explaining who originally constructed the immense platform beneath their temples. The archaeological consensus currently attributes the Trilithon to a pre-Roman civilization, perhaps the Phoenicians or Canaanites. Yet these societies, according to our historical records, also possessed relatively simple technology. This discrepancy leaves a gaping 800-ton hole in our understanding. If neither the Romans nor earlier documented civilizations had the technological ability to move these stones, who did? One thing remains undeniable. Whoever built Baalbek's foundational stones had both the profound knowledge of stonework and extraordinary organizational capabilities. But more than that, they seem to have possessed a technology or a physical power that is now lost to the world. The enormous scale, precision engineering, and enduring mystery of Baalbek's stones stand as a tangible testament to an ambition, skill, and determination that borders on the superhuman. Whether the product of ancient engineering genius, lost technology, or mythical giants, Baalbek's megalithic foundation remains one of the world's most enigmatic and challenging monuments. Leaving behind the colossal stones of Baalbek, our journey now takes us across the Atlantic, deep into the heart of North America. Here, far from the iconic pyramids of Egypt or the ancient temples of Greece, lie monumental creations just as fascinating, but constructed not of stone, but entirely from soil, clay, and human ingenuity. These are the great earth mounds,
massive structures whose sheer size, intricate designs, and precise astronomical alignments continue to astonish archaeologists and prove that the ambition to build on a megalithic scale was a truly global human endeavor. One of the most extraordinary and iconic earthworks found in North America is Ohio's famous Serpent Mound. Stretching over 400 meters long, this immense effigy mound coils gracefully along a gently sloping hillside. It depicts a serpent with open jaws, appearing to swallow an oval shape, often interpreted as the sun, an egg, or a symbol of renewal or rebirth. Built by the careful shaping and placement of tons of soil and clay, Serpent Mound remains one of the largest effigy mounds in the world, impressive in both its scale and its artistic precision. What makes Serpent Mound especially intriguing isn't just its size or dramatic appearance, but its precise astronomical alignments. Archaeologists have observed that its curves and head align perfectly with significant solar and lunar events. For instance, the serpent's head points directly toward the summer solstice sunset, while its coils align with the equinox sunrises and even the major standstill points of the moon's 18.6-year cycle. Such exact positioning implies an extraordinary level of astronomical knowledge among its ancient builders, who carefully observed, recorded, and monumentalized celestial patterns. Yet, Serpent Mound is far from the only ancient earthwork of its kind. Scattered throughout the American Midwest and Southeast are thousands of earthen structures, enormous geometric enclosures, towering platform mounds, conical burial mounds, and effigies of animals and mythical beings. Among these, the ancient city of Cahokia in Illinois stands out as a true metropolis of the mound-building cultures. Over 1,000 years ago, Cahokia was a sprawling city inhabited by tens of thousands of people. At its center stood Monk's Mound, the largest earthen structure in North America. Rising nearly 30 meters high and covering over 14 acres, this single platform mound is larger at its base than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Cahokia's ancient architects carefully aligned their entire city to astronomical events, creating a cityscape deeply connected to the rhythms of the cosmos, complete with a massive solar calendar made of wooden posts, dubbed Woodhenge. The question naturally arises, how did these ancient North American societies develop such sophisticated knowledge of astronomy and engineering? Indigenous traditions across the region, Cherokee and Shawnee, share rich oral histories describing ancient, highly advanced ancestors who possessed detailed knowledge of the stars and the land. These traditions speak respectfully of the Old Ones, or previous peoples who handed down sacred wisdom and techniques, including how to build immense ceremonial structures aligned with the sun, moon, and stars. These teachings emphasize a deep spiritual connection between the land and the sky, a worldview preserved through generations in ceremony and storytelling. One intriguing aspect of these accounts is their consistent portrayal of earlier peoples who seemingly vanished or moved on, leaving behind only their monumental earthworks as silent reminders of their existence. Despite their sophisticated engineering, these ancient cultures communicated their knowledge orally, entrusting it entirely to memory, ritual, and the monuments themselves. They built not with stone that could be intricately carved with records, but from the very earth itself, creating a different kind of permanence. Today, these earthworks continue to hold deep spiritual significance for Native American tribes, who recognize them as sacred spaces connecting past, present, and future generations. Standing in quiet awe at Serpent Mound or atop the colossal Monk's Mound, one can't help but marvel at the ingenuity and cultural depth of their creators. They are monuments not of stone, but of the land, still enduring, still intriguing, and still holding their secrets just below the grassy surface. Our exploration of these global enigmas now leads us to two profoundly different,
yet equally mysterious sights, one reaching for the sky and the other hidden deep within the earth. We return to the rugged altitudes of Peru's highlands, to a place that combines stunning craftsmanship with the same persistent legends of giants and floods. Overlooking the coal-blue waters of Lake Umayo near Puno, stands one of South America's most puzzling archaeological sites, Silistani. Silistani is famous for its striking stone towers, known locally as chulpas. These are not crude stone heaps. They are impressive cylindrical towers, some standing nearly 12 meters tall, built from massive, finely cut stones. As you approach, it quickly becomes clear these aren't ordinary ruins. The craftsmanship is astonishing. The andesite blocks are perfectly smooth and expertly shaped, fitting together tightly without mortar, displaying the same signature of advanced masonry we saw at Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo. The precision at Silistani rivals that of the most sophisticated ancient stonework found anywhere in the world. Archaeologists believe these remarkable towers served as burial tombs for important community leaders or priests. But the question remains, why were they constructed with such extraordinary, seemingly unnecessary precision and care? One particularly remarkable aspect is their unusual architectural technique. The chulpas incorporate massive, finely carved blocks that are wider at the top than at the bottom, creating an inverted, tapered shape. This deliberate and counterintuitive design gave the towers incredible stability, helping them withstand centuries of earthquakes and harsh weather, a clear testament to their builders' sophisticated understanding of engineering. Local indigenous traditions, once again, add an intriguing layer to Silistani's story. Ancient legends passed down in the region speak vividly of the Gentiles, an ancient race of giants who were the first inhabitants of the highlands. These beings, described as taller, stronger, and more knowledgeable than ordinary people, supposedly built these towers with ease before being wiped out by a great flood. It is fascinating how widespread these accounts appear in local oral traditions, a consistent narrative of an earlier, more advanced people who disappeared suddenly, leaving their impossible creations behind. Geological evidence around the Lake Titicaca Basin, not far from Silistani, does indeed show significant water level fluctuations and catastrophic flooding events in the distant past. Could such an event have wiped out these advanced builders, leaving behind only their enigmatic stone towers as testimony to their existence? From these sky-reaching towers, we now venture far across the Pacific, undiscovered until 1992. These incredible subterranean halls, now known as the Longyu Caves, represent one of China's greatest archaeological puzzles, both because of their immense scale and because, inexplicably, no historical records whatsoever mention their creation. The caves were accidentally uncovered by local villagers who, believing they were draining natural ponds, found instead enormous, intricately carved chambers hidden just beneath their feet. Since then, at least 24 man-made caves have been found, each one meticulously excavated into solid siltstone. Stepping into them for the first time is awe-inspiring. Each chamber is vast, some as large as a cathedral, with ceilings over 30 meters high, supported by immense stone pillars, all carved directly out of the solid rock. The sheer volume of stone removed is estimated to be nearly 1 million cubic meters. The effort required suggests a huge coordinated project involving thousands of skilled workers over many years. Yet the mystery is absolute. No tools, pottery, artifacts, or even human remains have been found that could provide clear clues about their creators. The cave walls and ceilings display precise, uniform parallel grooves, likely tool marks, suggesting a level of skill and organization rarely seen. But perhaps the most perplexing part is the complete absence of historical records. Ancient Chinese historians were meticulous record keepers, carefully documenting major construction projects. Yet, surprisingly, no known Chinese documents, inscriptions, or texts mention these remarkable caves. This void has sparked intense curiosity. Why was such an impressive achievement completely omitted from history? Adding to the strangeness is the complete lack of soot residue on the walls. Had ancient workers used torches or lanterns, as would be expected, traces of smoke should be visible, yet none have been found, deepening the mystery of how these vast, dark chambers were illuminated during construction. The Long Yu Caves challenge our understanding of China's past, highlighting massive gaps in the historical record. Like the Cholpas of Silestani, they are the legacy of a vanished people, a silent architectural marvel that continues to astonish everyone who steps within its dark, echoing halls. From the shadowy depths of China's hidden caves, our journey now takes us to one of the most remote and iconic places on Earth. We travel far across the vast Pacific Ocean, arriving at a tiny, isolated speck of volcanic land known as Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. This island, thousands of kilometers from any other inhabited landmass, is home to some of the most recognizable and intriguing monuments ever created, the enigmatic Moai statues. Dotting Rapa Nui's rugged, treeless landscape are nearly 900 of these giant stone figures. Carved from solid volcanic tuff, the statues vary in size, but many tower impressively over the landscape, averaging around 4 meters tall and weighing up to 14 tons. The largest Moai ever attempted, known as El Gigante, remains partially carved in the Rano Radaku quarry. Had it been completed, this giant would have stood 21 meters tall and weighed over 250 tons. What immediately strikes any observer is their sophisticated and uniform craftsmanship. Their facial features are distinct, with heavy brows, elongated noses, and thin, pursed lips. Most remarkably, their large eyes were originally inlaid with white coral and red scoria to create an intense, living gaze. Carving these statues was only half the battle. Once shaped, these enormous figures had to be transported, often for several kilometers, from the quarry to ceremonial platforms called ahu along the coastline. How the Rapa Nui people accomplished this extraordinary feat remains a fascinating and intensely debated puzzle. The effort required to move them over rough, hilly terrain would have been immense. Numerous theories have been proposed, from wooden sledges and log rollers to complex rope systems. However, these methods would have required vast amounts of timber, a resource famously scarce on the island in later periods. The most intriguing theory comes from the islanders' own oral tradition, which states that the statues walked across the island. The elders claimed that powerful priests used a spiritual force called mana to command the Moai to move. For a long time, this was dismissed as myth, but recently, researchers have demonstrated that it might be physically possible to walk the statues upright by rocking them back and forth with teams of rope pullers, mimicking a slow, shuffling gait. Still, despite experimental success, the exact method remains unknown. For centuries, the islanders maintained a strong tradition of ancestor worship, believing these towering stone figures represented important chieftains who watched over and protected their descendants. But what makes Easter Island even more fascinating, and perhaps more relevant to our global mystery, is its tragic story of cultural collapse. Archaeological evidence shows that at one point, Rapa Nui supported a thriving, complex society. These islanders skillfully farmed the land and maintained extensive networks of cooperation necessary to build and move the Moai. However, Sometime around the 17th or 18th century, things change drastically. Archaeological layers from this period reveal evidence of conflict, social upheaval, and the abrupt halting of Moai construction. Dozens of unfinished statues remain abandoned in the quarry, as though their creators simply dropped their tools and walked away forever. The island's population plummeted, and a previously organized, prosperous society fractured. Many researchers attribute this collapse to ecocide. The islanders overused their resources, particularly cutting down all the palm trees, which led to soil erosion, diminished crop yields, and the inability to build canoes for fishing. This environmental stress likely led to famine and warfare. Yet some scholars speculate that this may not be the full story. More recently, geological studies have revealed evidence suggesting Easter Island experienced periods of extreme climatic stress, including severe droughts. Furthermore, Rapa Nui legends themselves describe past catastrophic events, including great waves, tsunamis, that destroyed coastal villages and wiped out populations. These stories remain embedded in their oral history, vivid reminders of their ancestors' vulnerability to powerful natural forces. In this light, Easter Island can be seen as a microcosm, a small-scale model of what can happen to a civilization facing an overwhelming environmental catastrophe. It is a haunting echo of the same pattern we see globally, a sophisticated, monument-building culture that thrives, then suddenly and mysteriously collapses, leaving behind silent, enigmatic statues that gaze out over a changed world, perhaps guarding the secrets of what ultimately led to their creator's downfall. Leaving the windswept shores of Easter Island, we travel across the globe one last time, arriving in southeastern Turkey, a land steeped in the very origins of human civilization. Here, on a quiet, unassuming hilltop overlooking the vast Mesopotamian plains, lies what may be the single most important and paradigm-shattering archaeological discovery of the last century. It is a site that has dramatically reshaped how we understand the dawn of civilization. It is called Göbekli Tepe. In Turkish, the name means potbelly hill, and from a distance, it appears as just that, a gently rising, man-made mound surrounded by farmland. But beneath its unassuming exterior lies an extraordinary ancient complex built nearly 12,000 years ago. To put that staggering age into perspective, Göbekli Tepe predates Stonehenge by roughly 7,000 years and Egypt's Great Pyramid by over 6,000. It was built before the invention of pottery, before writing, before the wheel, at a time when humanity was thought to consist solely of small, nomadic bands of hunter-gatherers. Excavations have revealed several large, circular enclosures constructed from immense limestone pillars. Many of these pillars are carved into a distinctive T-shape, some reaching nearly 6 meters in height and weighing up to 20 tons each. What's immediately striking is not just their size, but the remarkable and sophisticated detail carved onto their surfaces. Intricate, high-relief carvings of animals such as foxes, vultures, snakes, lions, and scorpions adorn these pillars, executed with an artistic precision far beyond what archaeologists previously believed possible for such an ancient era. These were not the crude daubings of cavemen. This was the work of master sculptors. One fascinating pillar at Göbekli Tepe even depicts stylized human arms carved along its sides, and on another nearby site, a figure is shown carrying a small, handbag-like object. This is an enigmatic symbol that, intriguingly, appears in carvings made by completely unrelated ancient cultures worldwide, from the Sumerians in Mesopotamia to civilizations in Central America. The recurring image of this handbag motif across distant ancient cultures has captivated researchers and sparked intense debates. Is it purely coincidental, Or could it suggest that ancient peoples across different continents shared a common symbolic language, perhaps inherited from a long-forgotten common ancestor? The mystery deepens when examining the construction itself. Its builders not only quarried, carved, and transported these massive stone pillars, but they also placed them upright within carefully engineered structures. This required complex planning and significant collective labor, suggesting a level of social organization previously thought impossible for hunter-gatherer societies. And what's more, archaeologists have found no evidence that Göbekli Tepe served as a dwelling or domestic site, cooking fires, or typical everyday tools. Instead, researchers believe it was a ceremonial center, possibly the world's oldest known temple, a sacred gathering place where people from across the region assembled, perhaps to participate in rituals tied to the cycles of nature and the cosmos. And Göbekli Tepe is not an isolated phenomenon. Recent discoveries in the same region of Turkey have uncovered other equally fascinating sites, such as Tepe. Located approximately 35 kilometers away, Tepe features similarly impressive T-shaped pillars and circular enclosures, strongly suggesting that these sites were part of a broader cultural movement or network that spread across the entire region 12,000 years ago. These related sites provide compelling evidence that the people of this ancient world shared common religious or cultural practices, spreading knowledge, ideas, and symbols across considerable distances. Perhaps most mysteriously of all, after centuries of use, Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried. Around 8000 BC, its creators, or their descendants, meticulously backfilled the entire site with tons of earth and rubble, an intentional act that preserved it remarkably well for millennia. Why would a people carefully bury their most sacred temple? Was it an effort to protect it, or did it mark the end of a significant cultural era, a ritual closing of a chapter of human history? The existence of Göbekli Tepe and its sister sites forces us to ask a profound question. What else don't we know? If a civilization this organized, this artistically and architecturally sophisticated, existed 12,000 years ago, what happened to it? How did its knowledge seemingly vanish from the historical record, only to be rediscovered by accident, sleeping just beneath a lonely Turkish hill? After journeying across the globe, from the floating stones of Japan to the Cyclopean walls of Peru, from the sunken ruins of the Mediterranean to the 12,000-year-old temples of Turkey, a powerful and coherent picture begins to emerge. We have encountered massive stone circles, precise astronomical alignments, sophisticated carvings, and extraordinary structures that challenge the conventional timeline of history. A single question naturally arises. Could these scattered monuments be the last fading evidence of advanced societies lost to history, disrupted and almost entirely destroyed by catastrophic flooding events thousands of years ago? To understand this intriguing idea, we must briefly consider the dramatic geological and climatic changes that swept across the Earth at the end of the last ice age, between roughly 12,800 and 8,000 years ago. During this period, our planet underwent a violent transition. As enormous ice sheets that had covered much of the northern hemisphere melted and retreated, they released unimaginable quantities of water into the world's oceans. Global sea levels rose by more than 120 meters. That's nearly 400 feet. Enough to reshape continents, submerge vast coastal landmasses, and permanently alter the course of human civilization. This rise in sea level was not always gradual or subtle. Geologists now understand it likely occurred in a series of dramatic, catastrophic pulses. Events like the sudden breaking of natural ice dams, holding back colossal glacial lakes, could have unleashed floods on a scale we can barely comprehend, raising global sea levels virtually overnight. Coastal areas that were once vibrant, populated regions, rich in resources and ideal for settlement, vanished beneath the rising seas, forcing entire populations inland and destroying their worlds.
Could these sudden, terrifying floods explain why so many ancient cultures worldwide, from Mesopotamia to the Andes, describe a world-ending water event in their most sacred myths and legends? The concept of a connected ancient civilization that spanned coastlines and oceans might sound radical, but it's worth reconsidering the numerous architectural and symbolic similarities we've observed among these distant sites. The consistent presence of complex, mortarless megalithic construction, advanced astronomical alignments, and repeated symbolic motifs like spirals, serpents, and the mysterious handbag carving found from Göbekli Tepe to ancient Mexico all suggest shared cultural ideas. Were these ideas spread through widespread cultural exchange, or could they have originated from a single, ancient parent civilization? A civilization that was primarily coastal and therefore the first and primary victim of the rising seas. This is the core of the lost civilization hypothesis, that an advanced human culture reached a peak of achievement during the Ice Age, only to be abruptly interrupted and shattered by these cataclysmic environmental changes. The survivors, scattered and traumatized, carried with them fragmented knowledge, symbolism, and building techniques, which they passed on to later societies, leaving behind a faint but persistent echo of their lost world in the monuments and myths we find today. From Mesopotamia's Epic of Gilgamesh and the biblical account of Noah to the indigenous traditions of Australia and the Americas, nearly every ancient culture vividly remembered a devastating water event that swept away a former world, leaving only a few survivors to begin anew. Could these scattered legends actually be recording historical events? Could ancient storytellers have preserved the real human memory of environmental upheavals that wiped out entire civilizations, reshaped humanity's course, and left only impossible stone monuments behind as their final, silent testament? While conclusive proof remains just out of reach, the global pattern of myths aligns intriguingly with the hard scientific evidence of dramatic flooding at the end of the Ice Age. Ultimately, what we do know for certain is that our ancient ancestors possessed extraordinary skills, remarkable knowledge of astronomy and engineering, and a profound artistic vision. Sites like Göbekli Tepe, the Moai of Easter Island, the megalithic walls of Sacsayhuaman, and the submerged ruins off coastlines worldwide reveal an undeniable human capacity for creativity, innovation, and resilience. Perhaps the greatest value in exploring these mysteries is not to definitively prove or disprove any single theory, but to remain open to new discoveries, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the fact that our shared past is far more complex, interconnected, and fascinating than we have traditionally imagined. The stories we've uncovered during this journey invite ongoing curiosity, reminding us how much still remains undiscovered beneath our oceans, our sands, our forests, and the great silent ocean of time itself.